Captain Hyun-sik stared at the red light flashing on his command screen. The alarm had been going off for 3 minutes now, but no one on the bridge of the patrol ship Taeguk seemed to know what it meant. The sound was sharp and angry, cutting through the normal hum of the ship's engines. So-young, what is that thing telling us? Hyun-sik asked his second-in-command. Commander So-young was the smartest person he knew with computers and alien technology. If anyone could figure out this mess, it would be her. So-young's fingers moved fast across her control panel. Her dark eyes reflected the glow of the screens as she worked. Sir, I'm getting something strange. It looks like a distress signal, but it's not coming from any human ship. Alien? Hyun-sik walked over to look at her screen. The data looked like nothing he had seen before. Strange symbols mixed with numbers that seemed to dance and change as he watched. Not exactly alien. Sir, the signal is coming through human emergency channels, but the source is way out in the outer rim, past the war zones. Hyun-sik felt his stomach drop. The outer rim was where the big alien armies fought their endless wars. Humans tried to stay away from that area. 3 major alien powers had been fighting there for over 50 years. The Thrakari Empire with their massive war fleets, the Vex Collective with their robot soldiers, the Ethereal Dominion with their mind powers. They all hated each other and loved to fight. Can you clean up the signal? Make it clearer? So, Young nodded and kept working. The bridge was quiet except for the soft beeping of machines and the low hum of the ship's power core. The other crew members watched and waited. Finally, So-young looked up. I've got something, sir. It's a voice message, but it's broken up badly. Play it. The speakers crackled with static. Then a human voice came through, scared and confused. This is... anyone out there. The armies, they just stopped. All of them. They're not fighting anymore. They're all looking up at the sky. Something's wrong. Something's very wrong here. The message cut off. The bridge was silent for a long moment. That's all we got, sir, So-young said quietly. Hyun-sik rubbed his face with both hands. This made no sense. The alien armies never stopped fighting. They had been at war for so long that most people thought they would fight until they destroyed each other completely. And what did looking up at the sky even mean? Sir, called out Navigator Min-ho from his station, I've checked the star charts. That signal came from the Kepler 442 system. That's right in the middle of the war zone. I know where it is, Hyun-sik said. The question is what we do about it. So-young stood up from her chair. Sir, with respect, maybe we should call this into command. Let them decide. Hyun-sik thought about that. Command would probably tell them to stay away. The war zone was off limits to human ships unless they had special orders. But something about that message bothered him. The fear in the human voice, and the impossible idea that the alien armies had just stopped fighting. How long would it take us to get there? He asked Min-ho. About 6 hours at full speed, sir. And how long to get a message to command and wait for orders? At least 12 hours, sir. Maybe more. Hyun-sik looked around the bridge at his crew. These were good people. They had been together for 2 years, patrolling the border between human space and the war zones. They had seen refugee ships. They had picked up survivors from battles. They knew what war looked like. But they had never seen war just stop. So-young, what do you think happened out there? She shook her head. I don't know, sir. But if the armies really did stop fighting, that's the biggest news in 50 years. Maybe the biggest news ever. Could be a trap, said Security Chief Dong-woo, from the back of the bridge. Maybe one side won, and they're trying to lure human ships into the area. Maybe, Hyun-sik agreed. But that signal came from a human, someone who needs help. He made his decision. Min-ho, set course for Kepler 442, full speed. Yes, sir. So-young, keep monitoring all frequencies. If you pick up anything else, I want to know right away. Already on it, sir. As the Taeguk turned and accelerated toward the war zone, Hyun-sik couldn't shake the feeling that they were flying into something bigger than they could imagine. In his 10 years as a ship captain, he had learned to trust his gut feelings. Right now, his gut was telling him that the universe had just changed in some fundamental way. The trip to Kepler 442 took exactly 6 hours and 15 minutes. For the first 3 hours, everything seemed normal. The ship's sensors showed empty space ahead. No other ships, no energy signatures, no signs of the massive fleets that were supposed to be fighting in this area. Then things got strange. "Sir," So Young called out, "I'm picking up some very big energy readings ahead. Really big." "How big?" "Like thousands of ships big, but sir, they're not moving." Hyun-sik frowned. "Not moving at all?" "No, sir. They're just sitting there, all grouped together." On screen, the main viewer flickered and then showed the Kepler 442 system. What Hyun-sik saw made him forget how to breathe for a moment. There, floating in space around the system's main star, were more warships than he had ever seen in one place. Thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands. But So Young was right. They weren't moving. They weren't fighting. They were just floating there in perfect formations. "Min-ho, can you identify the ship types?" Min-ho was already working on it. "Sir, I'm seeing Thrakari dreadnoughts, Vex battlecruisers, and ethereal mine ships. All three fleets are here, but they're not fighting each other. They're arranged in some kind of pattern." "What kind of pattern?" "They're all facing the same direction, sir, like they're all looking at the same thing." Hyun-sik felt a chill run down his back. "Looking at what?" "I don't know, sir." "Empty space, as far as I can tell." So Young's hands flew over her controls. "Sir, I'm trying to contact the fleets. Standard hailing frequencies." They waited. The response came quickly, but it wasn't what anyone expected. Instead of angry alien voices demanding they leave, they heard something much worse. Silence. Complete. Total silence. "The channels are open," So Young reported. "They're receiving our signals, but no one is answering. Try emergency frequencies." "Already did." "Nothing." Hyun-sik stared at the screen. Thousands of warships from 3 different alien races, all known for their aggression and pride, were sitting quietly in space like toys that had been carefully arranged by a giant child. "Take us closer," he ordered, "but keep us ready to run if anything changes." As the Taeguk moved deeper into the system, more details became clear. The alien ships were indeed arranged in perfect order. Thrakari ships in one area, Vex ships in another, ethereal ships in a third. But instead of pointing weapons at each other, they were all oriented the same way. "Sir," Min-ho said quietly, "I'm reading life signs on all the ships. The crews are alive. Then why aren't they talking to us?" "I don't know, sir." When they got close enough to see details, Hyun-sik ordered the ship to stop. Through the viewports of the alien vessels, they could see figures standing motionless on observation decks. Aliens from all 3 races, just standing there, all facing the same direction. "So Young," Hyun-sik said slowly, "send a message to command. Tell them we've found the fleets. Tell them something impossible has happened out here. And tell them we're going to board one of those ships to find out what." "Sir, are you sure that's wise?" Hyun-sik looked at the thousands of silent warships surrounding them. Somewhere in this mess was the answer to what had happened to the galaxy's greatest armies. And maybe, just maybe, they could help whoever had sent that distress signal. "Probably not," he said. "But we're going to do it anyway." The Thrakari dreadnought was huge. As the Taeguk shuttle approached the alien warship, Hyun-sik could see weapons that were bigger than his entire patrol ship. The dreadnought's hull was dark red metal, covered with spikes and sharp edges. Everything about it was designed to look scary and dangerous, but today it just looked empty. "Sir, I'm getting a response to our docking request," reported So Young from the shuttle's co-pilot seat. "The docking bay doors are opening automatically." Hyun-sik checked his sidearm and looked back at his boarding team. Sergeant Jin-woo sat, ready with his rifle, his young face serious behind his helmet visor. Dr. Miran clutched her medical scanner with both hands, clearly nervous about boarding an alien warship. 2 other Marines, Kyung-soo and Hye-jin, checked their equipment one more time. "Remember," Hyun-sik told them as the shuttle entered the massive docking bay, "we don't know what we're walking into. Stay alert, stay together, and if anything feels wrong, we leave immediately." The docking bay was big enough to hold 50 shuttles like theirs, but it was completely empty except for a few maintenance robots that stood frozen in place. The air looked normal, and their sensors said it was safe to breathe. "Still reading life signs throughout the ship," Miran reported, checking her scanner. "Lots of them. But, sir, the readings are very strange. Strange how? Their brain activity is almost flat, like they're asleep while standing up. They put on their helmets anyway and left the shuttle. The gravity on the Thrakari ship was heavier than human normal, making each step feel like work. Their boots echoed in the empty bay as they walked toward the main corridor. The inside of the ship was as scary as the outside. The walls were covered with sharp metal decorations and pictures of Thrakari warriors winning battles. Red lights made everything look like it was covered in blood, but there were no crew members anywhere. "This way to the bridge," Jinwoo said, checking his map of Thrakari ship designs. "Should be up about 10 levels." They took the elevator. It worked normally, playing soft music that sounded like drums and war chants. When the doors opened on the bridge level, they saw the first Thrakari crew members. There were 12 of them, standing in the main corridor. Tall, lizard-like beings with scales and sharp teeth. They wore their normal uniforms and carried their weapons, but they were completely still, like statues. Their large yellow eyes stared straight ahead, unblinking. "Are they alive?" Hyun-sik whispered. Miran scanned them carefully. "Yes, sir. Heart rate's normal. Brain activity minimal but present. It's like they're in some kind of trance." Jinwoo waved his hand in front of one Thrakari's face. The alien didn't react at all. "Sir, this is really weird. They're not even breathing hard." "Let's check the bridge." The command center of the dreadnought was a large circular room with screens and control panels everywhere. 30 Thrakari officers stood at their posts, hands on their controls, eyes staring forward. The main viewing screen showed the same. "View as always, the other ships in the fleet all pointing the same direction. Miran, can you access their computer logs?" "I can try, sir." She plugged her scanner into one of the control panels. "Got it. Reading their last entries now." While she worked, Hyun-sik walked around the bridge. The Thrakari were known for being aggressive warriors who loved to fight. They had been at war with the other alien races for so long that most people thought it was just their nature. But here they were, standing quietly like they were waiting for something. "Sir," Miran called out, "I found their final log entries. You need to hear this." She played the recording through her scanner's speakers. A deep Thrakari voice spoke in accented human language. "Fleet Admiral's log. Final entry. The voice has spoken to us. The voice from between the stars. We understand now what we must do. We must wait. We must watch. We must prepare for the coming of the Silence Bringer. All ships will maintain position and await further instructions." The recording ended. The bridge was quiet except for the soft humming of machines. "Silence Bringer?" Jinwoo asked. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Keep checking," Hyun-sik told Miran. "See if there's more." She found another recording, this one from earlier. The same voice, but more confused and scared. "Something is wrong. Our fleet psychics are reporting a presence in space, something vast and ancient. It's trying to communicate with us, but the words are appearing directly in our minds. It says it brings peace. It says war is unnecessary. Our warriors are starting to lay down their weapons." A third recording, even earlier. "Emergency log. Unknown entity making contact. Our entire fleet is affected. The entity claims to be offering us a gift. The gift of eternal tranquility. Our crew members are standing at attention, but they won't respond to orders. They just keep looking toward empty space, waiting for something." "And the last one," Miran said, playing the final recording. "This one was made just 6 hours ago. The Thrakari voice was different now. Calm and peaceful, almost happy. We see it now, the beauty of silence, the perfection of peace. No more fighting, no more war, no more pain. We will wait here until it comes. We will be ready to serve." Hyun-sik felt cold inside his suit. "Check the other fleets. See if they have similar logs." Miran worked quickly, accessing the data networks between the alien fleets. "Sir, I'm getting similar recordings from Vex and ethereal ships. Same thing happened to all of them. Something contacted them psychically and convinced them to stop fighting." "But what? And where is it?" "I don't know, sir. But according to these logs, all 3 races are waiting for something called the Silence Bringer to arrive. They seem to think it's going to bring them permanent peace." Jinwoo checked his rifle nervously. "Sir, this sounds like mind control. Something took over their brains. Maybe, Hyun-sik agreed. But why didn't it affect us? We've been here for hours and we feel fine. Miran was studying her scanner readings. Sir, I think I know why. Look at this data from the alien crew members. She showed him the screen. All the affected beings show similar brain patterns. They all have active psychic centers in their brains. The Thrakari have limited telepathy. The Vex Collective uses cybernetic mind links. The Ethereals are full psychics. And humans? Humans have no psychic abilities at all. We're essentially deaf to mental influences. Whatever contacted these fleets, it used psychic communication. We can't hear it because we don't have the right kind of brain. The implications of this hit Hyun-sik like a punch to the stomach. You're saying this thing can control any species that has psychic abilities? That's what it looks like, sir. So we're the only ones who are immune? As far as I can tell, yes. Suddenly, the main viewing screen on the bridge changed. Instead of showing the fleet, it now displayed a view of deep space. Far in the distance, something was moving toward them. Something enormous. Sir, Miran said, her voice shaking, I'm reading a massive energy signature approaching the system. It's the size of a small moon, but the structure readings say it's artificial. On the screen, they could see it now. A dark shape against the stars coming closer. It didn't look like any ship design they knew. It was more like a huge crystal or geometric structure, black as space but somehow visible against the darkness. As they watched, the paralyzed alien fleets began to move. Not to fight or flee, but to clear a path. Thousands of warships working together for the first time in 50 years, creating a corridor through space. They're making room for it to land, Jinwoo said quietly. Sir, Miran reported, checking her instruments. I'm detecting more movement throughout the ship. The crew is starting to head toward observation decks. They want to watch it arrive. Around them, the Thrakari bridge crew remained motionless. But Hyun-sik could hear footsteps in the corridors. Hundreds of alien crew members, all walking calmly. To get a better view of whatever was coming, we need to get back to our ship, Hyun-sik decided. Right now. They ran through the corridors, passing groups of Thrakari crew members walking slowly toward the outer decks. The aliens didn't pay any attention to the humans. They moved like people in a dream, focused completely on their destination. Back. In the shuttle, So-young was already preparing for emergency departure. Sir, our long-range sensors are going crazy. That thing out there is putting out more energy than our entire fleet combined. Get us back to the Taeguk. Fast. As their shuttle flew back toward their ship, Hyun-sik looked out at the alien fleets. On every observation deck of every ship, crew members stood watching the approaching entity. Thousands of beings from 3 different species, all united in their patient waiting. Sir, So-young said as they docked with the Taeguk. I've been monitoring communications from human space. Command wants to know our status. Tell them we've found something impossible. Tell them the entire war zone has been pacified by an unknown entity. And tell them we might be the only species that can't be controlled by it. Should I request backup? Hyun-sik thought about that as he watched the dark shape growing larger in the distance. Yes, but tell them to bring every human ship they can. Find! Because I think we're about to become the only free navy in the galaxy. The entity was beautiful and terrible at the same time. As it drew closer to the Kepler 442 system, Hyun-sik could see it clearly through the Taeguk's main viewer. It looked like a massive crystal made of black glass, with geometric patterns. That seemed to shift and change as he watched. Lights moved through it like slow lightning, pulsing in rhythms that almost seemed like a heartbeat. It was easily the size of Earth's moon, but it moved through space as smoothly as a small ship. No engines that they could detect, no visible propulsion. It just came closer, and the thousands of alien ships continued to make room for it. Sir, So-young reported from her station. I'm getting something new. The entity is broadcasting on all frequencies now. What kind of broadcast? Not radio or data transmission. This is different. It's like it's trying to talk directly to our brains. Dr. Miran looked up from her medical scanner. Sir, I'm not detecting any psychic influence on our crew. Whatever it's broadcasting, we can't hear it. But the aliens can. Oh, yes. Their brain activity is increasing. They're definitely receiving some kind of message. Hyun-sik made a decision. So-young, Patch me into the alien communications networks. Maybe we can hear what it's saying to them. Are you sure that's safe, sir? We'll find out. So Young worked at her controls for several minutes. Finally, she nodded. Got it. Routing the psychic communications through the Thrakari translation systems. You should be able to hear it now. The bridge speakers crackled, and then a voice filled the air. It was neither male nor female, neither young nor old. It sounded like a combination of every voice that had ever spoken, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Children of the stars, the voice said, and every word seemed to echo in their minds even though they were only hearing it through speakers. I am the silence bringer, the last of the peaceful ones. I have traveled from beyond the edge of your galaxy to offer you the greatest gift possible. The voice paused, and Hyun-sik could hear something like sadness in it. For eons you have known only war. You fight and kill and destroy, believing this is your nature. But it is not. Violence is a sickness, a flaw in your development. I can cure this sickness. I can give you perfect peace. On the viewing screen, the entity was now close enough that they could see alien ships from all three fleets moving to surround it. Not to attack, but to welcome it. I am the last of my kind, the voice continued. Long ago, my people learned the secret of true peace. We eliminated the capacity for violence from our minds. We lived in perfect harmony for millions of years. But perfection is lonely when you are the only ones who possess it. Miran was scanning the entity with every instrument they had. Sir, the energy readings are incredible. This thing is more powerful than anything we've ever seen. It could destroy our entire fleet without effort. Now I travel the galaxy, the voice said, offering this gift to other species. I have pacified 17 civilizations. Each one thanked me as they accepted eternal tranquility. You will be the 18th, 19th, and 20th. The communication ended, and the bridge was silent for a moment. It's talking about the Thrakari, Vex, and Ethereals, Jinwoo said quietly. 3 species at once. Sir, So Young called out urgently. I'm detecting movement from human space. Admiral Dong Hyun's fleet is approaching. 12 ships, including the battleship Admiral Yi Sun-sin. Good. We're going to need all the help we can get. But as they watched, something new happened. The entity began to focus its attention on the human ships. The voice returned, but this time it sounded puzzled, curious. There are beings here who do not hear my words. Beings who remain unaffected by my peace. Hyun-sik felt the temperature on the bridge drop several degrees. These creatures are broken, the voice said, and now there was interest in it. Their minds are closed to the harmony I offer. How fascinating. I must study them. Suddenly, the paralyzed alien fleets began to move again. But instead of maintaining their peaceful formations, they started to turn toward the approaching human ships. Sir, So Young shouted, the alien fleets are powering up their weapons. All human ships, this is Captain Hyun-sik, he broadcast on emergency frequencies. The entity is using the alien fleets against us. Repeat, we are about to be attacked by controlled alien forces. Admiral Dong Hyun's voice came back immediately. Understood, Captain. All ships, combat readiness. Prepare for engagement. The first wave of attacks came from the ethereal mind ships, beams of pure psychic energy that would have driven any telepathic crew insane, but they washed over the human ships harmlessly because humans had no psychic defenses to overwhelm. The Ba entity is confused, Miran reported, watching her instruments. It can't understand why its psychic weapons don't work on us. Next came the Vex battle cruisers with their plasma cannons and robot fighters. This was more dangerous. The human ships had to dodge and fight back with conventional weapons, but they had one huge advantage. The Vex ships were being controlled remotely by the entity, and it didn't understand human tactics. All ships. This is Admiral Dong Hyun. The enemy is fighting like a computer, not like experienced warriors. Use unpredictable maneuvers. Confuse the controlling intelligence. The human fleet scattered in all directions, each ship following different tactics. Some attacked aggressively, some retreated and circled back. Some flew in patterns that made no tactical sense. The entity, used to controlling minds that followed logical patterns, couldn't predict what they would do next. But the Thrakari dreadnoughts were the real threat. Their massive guns could destroy a human ship with one shot, and there were hundreds of them. "Sir," So Young said, monitoring the communications between alien ships, "the entity is getting frustrated. It's trying to understand why we won't accept its gift of peace." The voice came through the speakers again, but this time it was directed at the human fleet. "Broken ones, why do you resist the gift of tranquility? I offer you freedom from the pain of conflict. No more war. No more death. No more suffering." Admiral Dong Hyun responded over open channels. "Because choice is what makes us alive. Take away our ability to choose, and you take away everything that matters." "Choice?" The entity sounded genuinely confused. "But choice leads to conflict. Conflict leads to pain. I can eliminate both." "At the cost of free will," the Admiral replied. "That's too high a price. Free will is an illusion that causes suffering. I can show you perfect reality." During this conversation, the human ships continued to fight the controlled alien fleets. Captain Hae-won of the research ship, "Sejong made an important discovery. All ships, this is Sejong," she broadcast. "I've found something. When our ships get close to the alien vessels, their crews start to wake up. Our presence disrupts the entity's control." "How close?" Admiral Dong Hyun asked. "Within about 100 meters. At that range, the psychic control breaks down." This gave Hyun Sik an idea. "Admiral, request permission to attempt a boarding action. If we can get close enough to the alien ships, we might be able to free their crews." "Granted. All ships, cover the Taeguk. They're going in close." The next few minutes were the most dangerous of Hyun Sik's life. The Taeguk dove straight toward a Thrakari dreadnought, while laser fire exploded around them. So Young flew the ship, like she was dancing, spinning, and twisting between the enemy shots. When they got within 100 meters of the Thrakari ship, something amazing happened. The aliens on the observation decks began to blink and look around in confusion. They were waking up from the psychic control. "It works!" Miran shouted. "The crews are returning to normal consciousness." But the entity noticed what was happening. The voice came through the speakers again, and this time it was angry. "You seek to undo my gift? You would return these beings to a life of violence and pain?" "We're returning them to a life of choice," Hyun Sik replied. "Then you have chosen to be my enemies. So be it. If you will not accept peace willingly, I will study you until I understand how to force it upon you." The entity began to change. The geometric patterns on its surface shifted and rearranged themselves. New forms of energy began to pulse through it. "Sir," Miran said, her voice filled with fear, "it's adapting, learning. I think it's trying to figure out how to control human minds." "How long do we have?" "I don't know. But, sir, if it succeeds in learning how to control us, there won't be anyone left in the galaxy who can resist it. The battle for free will had begun. And humanity, the species that everyone thought was weak because they had no psychic powers, had become the last hope for every thinking being in the galaxy. The space battle was unlike anything in recorded history. Thousands of alien ships fought under perfect coordination, their crews controlled by the Silence Bringer's psychic influence. Against them stood 13 human vessels, outnumbered by odds that made victory seem impossible. But the humans had something the entity couldn't understand, the ability to be unpredictable. "Taeguk, break left and dive." Admiral Dong Hyun's voice crackled over the communication system. "Sejong, cover their retreat." Captain Hyun Sik watched as plasma fire from a dozen Vex cruisers lit up the space where his ship had been just seconds before. So Young pulled them into a spiraling dive that would have made any normal pilot sick, but somehow kept them alive. "Sir," Miran called out from her station, "I'm reading something new. Some of the alien crews we freed earlier are trying to retake control of their ships. On the main screen, they could see Thrakari warriors fighting their own crew members on the decks of a dreadnought. Half the crew had been freed when the human ships got close, but the other half was still under the entity's control. The entity is learning, Doctor." Miran continued. "It's figured out that it needs to maintain stronger control over crews near human ships. It's using more power to keep them under its influence. This was both good news and bad news. Good because it meant the entity had to work harder to maintain control. Bad because it meant their trick of freeing alien crews by getting close was becoming less effective. Admiral, Captain Heywan's voice came over the radio from the research ship Sejong. I've been analyzing the entity's control patterns. I think I can build a device that extends our psychic immunity to other beings. How long do you need? 6 hours minimum, maybe 8. We don't have 8 hours, Admiral Dong Hyun replied, as his battleship's guns fired at a formation of ethereal mine ships. At this rate, we'll all be space dust in 2 hours. Hyun-sik had an idea. Admiral, what if we split up? Make the entity fight on multiple fronts? Explain. Right now, it's controlling all these ships like one big fleet. But if we spread out across the system, it might have trouble coordinating them. Maybe we can confuse it. Worth a try. All ships, scatter pattern 7. Make them chase you. The human fleet broke apart and flew in different directions. Immediately, the controlled alien fleets became less coordinated. The entity was trying to control thousands of ships across a vast area of space while also studying human behavior. It was spreading itself too thin. But the Silence Bringer was learning fast. After an hour of scattered fighting, it changed tactics. Instead of trying to control all the alien ships directly, it started destroying any ship whose crew couldn't be perfectly controlled. Sir! So Young reported in horror. It's killing the aliens who are resisting its control. Hyun-sik watched as a Thrakari dreadnought exploded in a flash of light. The entity had decided that destroyed ships were better than ships it couldn't control completely. All human ships, Admiral Dong Hyun broadcast. New mission priority. We need to get close to every alien ship we can and free their crews completely. We can't let this thing kill them just because they're starting to think for themselves. This led to the most dangerous phase of the battle. Human ships had to fly directly into the middle of alien formations, get close enough to disrupt the psychic control, and then stay there long enough for the alien crews to fully wake up and retake their ships. Sergeant Jinwoo led a boarding party from the Taeguk onto a Vex battlecruiser. Fighting through corridors filled with robots that were trying to kill anyone who wasn't under the entity's control, his team reached the ship's central computer. Captain, he reported over his radio, the Vex ship is partially freed, but their cybernetic implants are still receiving signals from the entity. Dr. Miran, can you help with this? Miran was monitoring from the Taeguk. I'm sending you the frequency settings to disrupt their implants. But Jinwoo, you need to know that this might be dangerous for the Vex crew. Their implants are connected to their brains. Understood. Jinwoo and his team worked quickly to modify the Vex ship's systems. When they activated the disruption field, half the crew collapsed, but the other half woke up completely and began helping them fight off the controlled robots. Similar scenes played out across the battlefield. Human Marines boarding alien ships, human engineers working with freed alien crews to break the psychic. Control, human pilots flying impossible rescue missions to save ships that were about to be destroyed. The entity was getting frustrated. Its voice came over all communication channels. Why do you persist in this futile resistance? I offer perfect peace, and you choose chaos and suffering. Captain Heywan responded while working frantically to complete her psychic immunity device. We choose freedom, even if it means we might make mistakes. Freedom is an illusion. There is only order or chaos. I bring order. You bring slavery, Admiral Dong Hyun shot back. And we've had enough slavery in our history to recognize it when we see it. The entity paused for a moment as if thinking. Then it tried a new approach. Instead of force, it offered temptation. Humans, the voice said, suddenly gentle and kind. You have lost so much to war. I can return what you have lost. I can bring back your dead. On the bridge of the Taeguk, Hyun-sik felt his heart stop. The main screen shimmered, and suddenly he was looking at his brother Tae-min, who had died in the border wars 3 years ago. Hyun-sik, his brother's voice said, exactly as he remembered it. I can come back. The entity can restore me. All you have to do is accept its gift of peace. Tears ran down Hyun-sik's face. Tae-min looked exactly as he had in life. Same smile, same laugh lines around his eyes, same way of standing with his weight on his left foot. It's not real, So-young said quietly beside him. It's just the entity trying to manipulate you. I know, Hyun-sik whispered, but it looks so real. Brother, the image of Tae-min continued. Think of all the people who have died in wars, all the suffering that could end, all the families that could be reunited. All you have to do is stop fighting. Hyun-sik closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them, his face was hard with determination. "You're not my brother. My brother died fighting for freedom. He would never ask me to give up that freedom, even to bring him back." The image of Tymeen flickered and disappeared. "Sir," Myran reported, "the entity is trying the same trick on crew members throughout the fleet, showing them dead family members, promising to bring them back." "All human ships," Admiral Dong Hyun broadcast. "Remember what we're fighting for. Don't let it tempt you with lies." But the entity wasn't finished. It had been studying human behavior throughout the battle, and now it unveiled its greatest weapon. The voice returned, but this time it spoke with the authority of someone who understood humanity perfectly. "You think you are free," it said, "but you are slaves to your own emotions. Fear, anger, hate, grief, these control you more completely than I ever could. I offer to free you from these chains." And suddenly, every human in the fleet felt it. A wave of perfect calm washed over them. All their fears disappeared. All their anger faded away. All their grief was healed. For a moment they experienced what it would be like to live without emotional pain. It was the most beautiful feeling any of them had ever experienced. And it was the most dangerous trap the entity had set yet. Because unlike the aliens who had been controlled against their will, the humans were being offered the choice to give up their pain voluntarily. On ship after ship, human crew members stopped what they were doing and just stood there experiencing perfect peace. The human fleet began to drift as pilots forgot to steer and gunners forgot to fire. "Fight it!" Hyun-sik shouted over the radio. "It's not real peace, it's just the absence of feeling." But his own voice sounded distant to him. The perfect calm was so seductive. No more worry about the battle. No more grief for his dead brother. No more fear of death. Just endless, peaceful silence. Then he heard So Young's voice beside him, strained with effort. "Sir, we're not just the last free fleet in the galaxy anymore. We're about to become the last free minds." The perfect calm was killing them slowly. Across the human fleet, crew members stood at their stations with peaceful smiles on their faces while their ships drifted helplessly through space. The entity's final weapon wasn't force or fear, but the promise of a life without pain. Hyun-sik fought against the artificial peace with every bit of willpower he had. The feeling was so beautiful, so tempting. No more worries about command decisions. No more guilt about sending people into danger. No more grief for his brother. Just endless, gentle silence. But something inside him rebelled against it. Something, stubborn and human, that refused to be made perfect. "So Young," he managed to say through gritted teeth. "Status report." His second-in-command was also fighting the entity's influence. "Sir, most of our fleet is compromised. Only 3 ships, still responding. The Admiral Yi Sun-sin, the Sejong, and us." On the main screen, they could see the other human ships floating dead in space while thousands of controlled alien vessels surrounded them. Soon, the entity would simply capture the paralyzed humans and study them at leisure. "Sir," Dr. Miran called out weakly, "I've finished the psychic immunity device, but I need to get it to the entity's core to make it work on a large scale." "How close do we need to get?" "Inside its structure. Maybe a few hundred meters from its central processing center." Hyun-sik laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. "You're talking about flying inside that thing? It's the size of a moon." "Yes, sir. And, sir, there's something else. The immunity field will cut the entity off from all psychic contact, including its control over the alien fleets. But it will also cut it off from the mental network that has kept it stable for millions of years. The shock might destroy it." "Might?" "Probably will, sir." Hyun-sik thought about this. They were talking about killing a being that was older than human civilization. A being that claimed to be the last of its kind. But a being that was also trying to enslave every thinking creature in the galaxy. "All remaining ships, Admiral." Dong Hyun's voice came over the radio, weak but determined. "Form up on the Admiral Yi Sun-sin. We're going in." The battleship Admiral Yi Sun-sin was the largest ship in the human fleet. Built 50 years ago during the height of the border wars, it had survived more battles than any other vessel in human space. If any ship could penetrate the entity's defenses, it would be this one. As the three remaining human ships approached the massive alien construct, the Silence Bringer finally spoke directly to them. You continue to resist. Even when offered perfect happiness, you choose struggle and pain. Why? Admiral Dong Hyun answered for all of them. Because happiness that we don't choose isn't happiness at all. It's just another kind of prison. I do not understand this concept of choice. In my species, we chose once to eliminate choice itself. We have been perfectly content ever since. Content isn't the same as alive, Captain Haewon added from the Sejong. Being alive means taking risks, making mistakes, growing from those mistakes, but also suffering from them, the entity replied. I can eliminate the suffering. And eliminate the growth too, Hyun-sik said. We've seen what your perfect peace looks like. It's death pretending to be life. The entity considered this for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice was different. Curious rather than commanding. Show me. If you truly believe choice is superior to peace, prove it. Enter my structure, face me directly, choose to risk everything for the freedom to make mistakes. It was clearly a trap. The entity was inviting them inside so it could study them more closely, learn how to control human minds, but it was also their only chance to get Miran's device close enough to work. All ships, Admiral Dong Hyun ordered. Proceed into the structure. Stay close together. The surface of the alien construct opened like a flower, revealing passages large enough for their ships. As they flew inside, the walls around them pulsed with strange lights and incomprehensible patterns. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Sir, So Young reported, I'm reading massive energy buildups throughout the structure. I think it's preparing to scan us. Miran, how much longer do you need? Almost there, sir. Just need to get closer to the central core. They flew deeper into the structure, following passages that seemed to reshape themselves as they passed. The entity was guiding them, leading them exactly where it wanted them to go. Finally, they reached the center. It was a vast chamber filled with crystalline formations that pulsed with the same rhythm as a heartbeat. In the middle of it all was something that could only be described as a brain made of light and energy. Fascinating, the entity's voice echoed around them. You knowingly flew into my power, knowing it was likely a trap. This behavior pattern makes no logical sense. That's because you don't understand courage, Admiral Dong Hyun replied. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what's right, despite the fear. But why risk death for an abstract principle? Because, Hyun-sik said, thinking of his brother and all the others who had died for freedom. Some things are worth dying for, and free will is one of them. Now, Miran, Admiral Dong Hyun shouted. Dr. Miran activated her device. Immediately, a field of energy spread out from the Admiral Yi Sun-sin, expanding rapidly through the entity's structure. Wherever the field touched, the alien construct's lights flickered and dimmed. What? What is happening? The entity's voice was confused, almost frightened. I cannot feel. The connections are gone. I am alone. For the first time in millions of years, the Silence Bringer was experiencing true isolation. Cut off from its psychic network, it was feeling what humans felt every day, the terror and wonder of being alone in the universe with only your own thoughts for company. This is what it means to be truly alive, Captain Haewon said gently. To be alone with your choices, to be responsible for your own decisions. But it is so frightening, the entity whispered. How do you bear it? Together, Hyun-sik answered. We help each other. We make connections based on choice, not control. Throughout the galaxy, the psychic immunity field was spreading. On thousands of alien ships, crews were waking up and looking around in confusion. The Thrakari, Vex, and ethereal forces were free for the first time in weeks, and they were angry. Wait, Admiral Dong Hyun broadcast to all the alien fleets. Before you attack each other again, listen to what just happened. You were all controlled by the same force. You all experienced the same loss of free will. Maybe it's time to find a better way to resolve your differences. In the central chamber, the entity was changing. Its crystalline structure was becoming transparent, and the light inside was growing brighter. I understand now, it said, and its voice was full of wonder. I have been dead for so long, calling it life. You have shown me what it means to truly exist. What will you do now? Miran asked. I will leave your galaxy. Find others of my kind who have made the same mistake I did. Show them what you have shown me. But first, the entity's form began to dissolve, but as it faded, it left something behind. Knowledge flowed into the computers of all three human ships, advanced technology, scientific discoveries, the history of 1 billion civilizations. A gift, the entity said as it prepared to depart. In exchange for the greater gift you have given me, the knowledge of how different forms of consciousness can coexist without domination. Will we see you again? Admiral Donghyun asked. Perhaps. But if we meet again, it will be as equals, as beings who choose their own paths. The massive construct dissolved into points of light that scattered across the galaxy. The Silence Bringer was gone, traveling to distant stars to spread the message of choice and free will. In the Kepler 442 system, thousands of alien warships faced each other across space. For a moment, it seemed like the old wars would begin again. Then something unprecedented happened. A Thrakari admiral sent a message to the Vex and Ethereal fleets. We have all been prisoners. Perhaps it is time we talked like free beings instead of fighting like slaves. The first interspecies peace conference in galactic history began 3 days later. Hyun-sik stood on the bridge of the Taeguk, watching mixed crews from all three species working together to repair battle damage. Humans, Thrakari, Vex, and Ethereals side by side, united not by psychic control but by shared experience and mutual choice. Sir, So-young said, joining him at the viewing port, Command wants to know what we should call this in our report. The Battle of Kepler 442? The war against the Silence Bringer? Hyun-sik thought about it. Call it the day the galaxy chose freedom. Outside, former enemies work together under the stars, proving that the greatest victories aren't won by the strongest armies, but by those brave enough to defend the right to choose their own destiny. The Invincible Armies had fallen silent when faced with a force that offered perfect peace. But when humanity came with their stubborn insistence on free will, even the most powerful entity in the galaxy learned what it truly meant to be alive, and the universe was better for it.